We're all dealing with feeling. We're all coping with feeling. Looking inside your heart is the place that you should start. Then you can heal. Then you can be real. So open up your heart. It's time to start. Dealing with feeling. Coping with feeling. Open up your heart. It's time to start.
Welcome to the show, Dealing with Feelings, and this is Dr. James Robert Porter and Karen White Porter, and we are here to talk about how we cope with our feelings and the
You're
feeling.
a professional educator and author, and what else are you?
Teacher, certified, and history, special ed, ESOL.
I'm a PhD in mental health counseling and licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Florida. That's all. Nothing else.
Two wonderful Floridians.
And nice, wonderful people we try to be.
Yeah.
Those are our credentials.
And Jim here is helping me really think more deeply about how I write stories about feelings, because that's his specialty and I'm learning as I go. So here we go. Today's emotion is anxiety. And I was thinking about how anxious I was on this camping trip that we went to when we decided to sleep in the car and all the windows were closed and I had to get out of the car and you're like, just relax. So sometimes that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't necessarily work, but I was just hoping. It's like, well, there's no way we could die or get hurt. We're just kind of really close to the ceiling of our Prius because of the huge inflatable mattress that we inserted in the back. We shall not name the place, I don't think, because that wouldn't be nice.
No.
But anyway, we slept in the car and it was really, it turned out that it was our best night of sleep, though.
It was.
Yeah. And you did calm down. How did you calm down? How did you calm down?
Well, you came around and opened the door, didn't you?
I think I might have opened my side of the door and more air came in and all that stuff.
Okay.
I wonder if anybody listening knows what we're talking about. But anyway, claustrophobia is a thing.
And it's a form of anxiety, right?
It definitely has a huge anxiety component. Phobia disorders, I'm not sure if they used to be classified under anxiety disorders, but I think they have their own arena now. Social anxiety disorder then would probably, I'm not looking at the DSM-5 right now, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. But I would say with every revision, these categorizations will be altered a little bit. But definitely anxiety is a component of social anxiety disorder and claustrophobia and all that stuff. Sure.
So the book I'm working on right now is how kids can feel anxious.
It's about claustrophobia.
Yeah. So I feel anxious when I get lost. And it's so interesting because we met at the campgrounds we were staying at. We met a very nice person and her daughter and her husband. And they were talking about how their daughter just recently got lost in the store for a few minutes, and maybe kind of rewrite the story, but I'll talk about that after we go through this story here. It's so, have you ever been lost in a grocery store? You have?
When you were asking me personally, or I thought you were
like
asking
when you were a little kid. Yeah.
I'm sure I was. I definitely remember a time when I was lost in a like clothing store at a department store, and I was playing in the racks of clothing because it was really cool to do that. And then I looked around, and I think I just started walking, and I was hanging onto somebody's skirt, and then I looked up, and it was not my mother. And I burst out in tears. Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to me is I was in Kmart and with Kathy Lyons and her mother, and we were Kathy and I were kind of running around the aisles.
Mhm.
And then she just disappeared.
Oh,
And I couldn't find her. I couldn't find her mom. So I started crying, and they took me up to the front desk and put an announcement out, and they gave me a candy bar.
oh man,
Yeah.
that's great.
So here's Ben went in with his mom to Publix, and Cal went in with his mom. And
Publix, for those people up north, is a grocery store.
yeah. And I'm going to rework the
Out
art a
west.
little bit, but Ben and Cal's mom said, "You can stay with us." Ben and Cal's mom went to buy apples. But see, this is where I changed the plot. Cal and Ben did not stay with their moms.
Mm, mm.
See, they just decided there's some other things that were more interesting.
Yeah,
Ben said, "Look here.
yoicks.
See all the Easter candy?" And
Lots of Easter eggs in this story.
Cal said, "Look here." Ben said, "We can go here.
Yoicks, man, they just think they can do everything.
I want my mom to see," Cal
Oh,
said.
yeah, yeah. Turn around. Is she there?
"Your mom is there," Ben said.
Oh, okay.
Cal said, "No, she is not.
Oh, oh. What happens
This
next?
is the moment we can go to my mom," Ben said.
Yeah.
"No, we cannot," Cal
Why
said.
not?
"Why not?" Ben said.
Aha! That's what I was thinking.
"Your mom is not there,"
Oh,
Cal said. "We
this is
are
horrible.
lost," Ben said. Cal said, "I feel anxious when I get lost."
Jeez,
Ben said, "I feel anxious when I am lost."
understandable, totally.
Do you like the legs? Somebody said they wanted to just like how that's how you when you're that.
Do I like the legs?
Yeah, see the legs behind him, like all he sees are people's legs. Kind of like the story
Yeah,
of your mom's skirt, you know.
yeah, I like the legs. The blue one I would shade in with like a darker blue around the edge instead of the pink. But I know that you're working on it. So.
Oh, the blue. Okay.
Yes, because I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Ignore me. I'm not the artist.
What can we do? Ben said. How can we cope? Cal said.
Right, right. How?
Cal said, "We can breathe." That does not help. I want my mom.
But that's the answer to everything is breathe. That solves every problem.
Ben said, "We can ask for help." Cal said, "How do we do that?" Okay, that's the end. That's the end of that. So
Well, that brings up the concept that people definitely need people. Like Jim Porter's always do your mindful breathing thing does not satisfy all your needs, does it now?
not Ben, not
Not for
Cal.
Ben. Yeah, nope. I got a lot to learn from Ben. You got to find some help though. Who had the idea, Cal or Ben? I don't
No,
remember their
yeah,
names.
Cal said we can breathe. Yeah, and Ben said that does not help.
So who said we can look for a grown-up or whatever?
I think Cal said that. And I'm thinking, that's a discussion that every parent needs to have with their kid and not me in the book.
You know what's funny? Oh, could you say that again? What do you mean?
Like we can ask somebody for help. Well, depends on where you live. Some people you can ask, some people you can't. Depends on who you are.
Mhm.
Depends on if you're in the city or if you're in the country. Who you got to every parent needs to tell their child who they feel comfortable their child asking for help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there is in the old days, they used to say, look for someone in uniform or, you know, and in uniform, it could be some grocery store manager in uniform or whatever. And this was the idea of who to trust. I think in general, that's the way to go. I mean, now we're talking about practicals, but that does matter. Seeking help matters. And you wouldn't leave the store with anybody but your parent. That's probably one thing. I mean, maybe if there was a police officer, I mean, it depends on the age of the child too. A 3-year-old,
Yeah.
some basic, simple, this is what you do. But you're bringing up something, you know, oddly enough, that just breathing doesn't help. Why? Because emotions are social. We are social. We're not going to get away from that for millions of years. We are social. So yeah, we find safety in the right people. So
Yeah.
that's really, yeah. I mean, it's right there, right in your book.
Yeah, the right people.
Yes, because what if you just walk out to the parking lot and go up to someone who is putting groceries in their car and say, "Can you take me home?" That's not going to be very helpful. Strangers are not necessarily dangerous, but people you know are just, you know how much you can rely on them or not, you know. So, but anyway, the reason I bring it up is because of that concept of social emotional learning. That is, I'm bringing it up because of how somehow something like that can be made controversial, but emotions are social, and relationships are emotional, and there's no getting away from that. It's like asking not to have a brain. You know, you can't do anything without a brain. We don't function without a social emotional. We don't. Our bodies are emotional things.
We need each other.
Yeah, we need each other. So, and you know, I'm reading that book about how emotions may not be real. They're socially constructed, but socially constructed does not mean fake. It means real in that they function to make social structure work.
Yeah.
And so therefore we couldn't have a corporation without a social structure, and you can't have a social structure without the emotion that glues everybody into where's the structure exists. It exists in our minds and in our neurobiology, the rest of
What
our
is I'll put the name and title of the book right here. So
and you'll put it right in there, like you're going to insert it when you go in. Okay.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts? What made you write this book about anxiety and being lost?
it's so interesting. What I did was I asked Google, I said, what are children most anxious about? And it said getting lost.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense.
And then I reflected upon my own life, and I thought to myself, oh yeah, I remember getting lost. And then when I took the story to my writers group, they were all like, oh my gosh, that really, I was a very sensitive child, and that really touched on a memory for me. And I
Mhm.
remember being anxious about not finding my mom in a
And what's interesting is there's this level of degree that goes like this. When you're in the womb, your parent that is carrying you in the womb is your actual physical life support system. When you come out and you're this little blob of a baby, your parents are still your physical life support system in a very different way. You're not connected by the umbilical cord physically anymore, but you will not survive if your parents aren't there providing. And we've learned that even touch is a thing that a baby needs to thrive, to be able to grow. You can feed them a lot of calories, but if you don't touch them, they may not grow. So anyway, no, and then it turns into a more sort of distant metaphorical thing. And ultimately, in ideal situations, metaphorically speaking, we internalize our parents, so we feel that that security within. So anyway.
You know what's interesting? I wonder if anxiety
Mhm.
might be brought on by people who don't don't have healthy attachment styles, or maybe have trouble with attachment.
Yeah, yeah. There would be anxiety in a lot of people. There are certain attachment styles like I forget what it's called because people keep renaming attachment style, but there's sort of a detached attachment style, detached avoidant or whatever. And the issue with that is there may be anxiety, so to speak, under dissociation. So dissociation is the act of sort of numbing, shutting down things. And a lot of times dissociation can be triggered by overwhelm. So, and again, like I mentioned before, the three-tiered system of the tummy area, the chest area, and then this upper area is the three branches of the vasovagal system. The tummy area is, well, here's the area where we're really interacting. And I know it doesn't sound very neurological, but I'm just going to do it broadly. This is where we're interacting and learning to feel safe with each other and connecting and feeling secure and trusting. When we start really getting worried, we go to the anxiety area, which is around the chestal area, as Woody Allen would call it. But the heart area, that's the vagal brake that keeps your heart regulated until it's time to really get anxious. And this is the area that starts to overact when you're anxious, but it's very helpful if you need to beat up a tiger or something. But when all seems overwhelming or lost and pointless, you go into the faint, flop, fall down, area, which is the dorsal vagal branch, and it goes to your tummy area.
Freeze, flight, or fight.
Yeah. So, why are we bringing that up? Because yes, people who have different kinds of attachment styles, there is anxiety in and around that. But for some people, they're not feeling anxiety. They're feeling nothing.
Yeah.
Because, so that, and the reason is because of the neurology that I just explained, but also that for many people, I don't want to feel anything uncomfortable, so I'm going to feel nothing. And it's not consciously chosen, but you can get. So anxiety, I think, is right there with attachment styles. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I think we hit an interesting nerve, and we talked about how anxiety is made and the physical attributes to it and how it's processed through the nervous system. And I hope that this helps us all cope with the emotion of anxiety. And just because when you breathe it doesn't work doesn't mean you can't cope, because then what I'm going to have in the end is have their moms find them,
Oh,
and then everything will be fine. So sometimes we have to solve our problems when we have anxiety, and then the anxiety goes away.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's what's going to happen here. And it might give people hope to realize that when you have all this stuff that your body's doing when you're anxious, if you just keep pressing forward, it will resolve.
Yeah, in general, if you're in a grocery store and you get lost, your mom is somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
Dad, your mom, whoever the adult was that brought you there, they're somewhere nearby.
Yeah. And if the world right now is a crazy place, and we look at all the things happening, disasters and wars and everything, but you know what? The sun always rises and sets, and we still have another day every day.
And most of the time, there is somebody somewhere that cares about you and wants to help you through it and appreciates you being there for them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to stop for today. Bye.
Bye-bye.